Hello there, I'm Black Bright News, and bloody hell, it's hot, isn't it? And to be honest, I am so glad for these filters. I'd be sweating like a pig. Now I don't have to put on no makeup. So yeah, let me talk about Virgin because they are being fined £28 million for hijacking people from leaving their service, apparently. So rather if I put my foot in it, let me just share what I found out. So Virgin gets fined 28 million for deliberately dropping calls and putting people on hold for no reason. That's according to MSE. So apparently customers trying to cancel their contract or switch providers were routinely put through the ringer by Virgin's customer service agents, according to MSC News. I'm not sure how you prove that, but I used to feel that all the time when I was trying to switch providers last year. So have you ever tried to cancel a contract and found yourself going round and round in circles? You phone up expecting a straightforward conversation or cancellation, but somehow you end up being transferred from one department to another, sitting on hold for what seems like forever, repeating your details over and over again, passed from this person to that person, and at the end of it you're so exhausted you almost think, I'll leave it for another day. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. This week, Ofcom fined Virgin Media 28 million after finding that millions of customer service calls between 2022 and 2024 were likely mishandled. And I probably fell into that number. The investigation focused particularly on people trying to cancel their contracts or switch to another provider. According to the regulator, some customers were kept waiting unnecessarily, some calls were deliberately disconnected, and others were put on hold for no genuine reason. Virgin Media says it has accepted the findings and has since changed its systems and processes. To be fair, the regulator's findings were about systems and practices, not simply one or two members of staff having a bad day. Although, when you think about the targets they have got to reach and the pressure they are under to keep customers, it's probably easier not to answer the call if it comes through on the I want to cancel my contract line. What makes this story important is that switching companies is supposed to be your choice. In a competitive market, companies should win customers by offering better prices and better services. And they do in the beginning. Not by making it difficult to leave, that people simply give up, which is what happened to me for several years. When leaving becomes harder than staying, something isn't working properly. And I don't understand why they rope you in with a £23 or £24 contract, and then within a couple of years it trebles. If they want to keep customers, why don't they maintain that low price that people joined for? Does it make sense to have people leaving and cancelling and then going back? To me, it doesn't make no sense because, anyway, let me not get into this, otherwise I won't have enough time. Most of us have experienced long waiting times at some point. We accept that sometimes call centres are busy, but there is a big difference between delays caused by high demand and delays that serve no real purpose. If someone has already made the decision to cancel, they deserve to have that request handled fairly and efficiently. Many people don't realise how stressful these situations can become. Some customers are elderly, some have disabilities, some may not speak English confidently, others may be juggling work, childcare or caring responsibilities. Spending hours on the phone isn't just an inconvenience, it can become a real barrier to exercising your rights as a consumer. One useful thing to remember is that you don't always have to do all the work yourself. In many cases these days, if you're moving to another broadband or phone provider, the new provider can often arrange the switch on your behalf. And that's what I had to do. Once I had an option for an alternative provider, Up till last year, Virgin was the only provider that served my area, so I was stuck. When EE offered to make the switch, I jumped on it, which made the process much smoother and reduced the amount of back and forth with the company I was leaving. However, just like every other broadband company, they start with a low rate and slowly the price goes up. And what started off as a $28.99 is now £45 a couple of years later. For basic TV and no special channels. So I'll be switching again when that contract is up next month. They always catch you by the short and curlies. Anyway, the wider message here isn't really about one company. It's about consumer rights. We all pay for services, and with that comes the right to leave if we're no longer happy. Whether it's broadband, mobile phones, insurance, or any other service, companies should make it easy to leave as it was to sign up in the first place. Ofcom's action sends a message to the whole industry. Regulators exist to make sure markets work fairly. When they believe companies have fallen below the standards customers deserve, they have the power to investigate and, where appropriate, impose significant penalties. A 28 million fine is not a small amount, and it reflects how seriously the regulator viewed these findings. However, hopefully the improvements Virgin Media says it has made will mean customers have a much better experience going forward. That's good for customers, it's good for competition, and ultimately it's good for businesses too, because companies that treat people fairly are far more likely to earn trust. As consumers, we shouldn't feel trapped. If we choose to stay with a company, it should be because we're happy with the service, not because cancelling has become an obstacle course. Fair treatment, clear communication, and respect for people's time shouldn't be exceptional. They should simply be the standard we all expect. Having said that, did you hear the news about Freeview? How the government are going to do away with it? The reports you've seen are based on a real government consultation, but the government has not decided to abolish Freeview. What it has done is launch a consultation on the future of terrestrial television after the current broadcasting licenses expire in 2034. But once you hear the rumour, it usually ends up being true, in my experience. At the moment, one option being considered is eventually moving television to internet delivery rather than broadcasting through aerials. But another option is to keep terrestrial television running for longer, potentially until 2044. No final decision has been made. The concern many people have, including me, is that Freeview is free once you've bought your television. If television moved entirely online, households would generally need a reliable broadband connection, and in many cases that means paying a monthly subscription. Campaigners, charities and some MPs argue this could hit older people, those on low incomes, rural communities, and anyone who simply prefers using an aerial. One proposal now being discussed is the long-term future of Freeview and after 2034. The government is consulting on whether television should continue to be broadcasted through aerials or eventually move entirely to the internet. If it moves to the internet, it should still be free service for basic channels, in my opinion. No final decision has been made, but it has already raised concerns. I'm not a big television watcher myself, apart from my annual 6-week appointment with Love Island. My TV is switched off most of the time. Yet I would still be disappointed if Freeview disappeared. The point isn't how many hours we watch television. It's about having a free choice. If watching ordinary television eventually requires broadband, then for many people it will no longer feel truly free. That's why this debate isn't just about technology. It's about affordability, accessibility, and making sure that everyone, regardless of age, income, and where they live, can still turn on their television without facing another monthly bill. And that's all I've got to say for now. I hope you found those two useful. And yeah, I hope it was new news and not old news for you. And yeah, that's all for now. I am knackered. I'm going to have some water and I'm going to relax. Take care now. Bye-bye.